Hello, and thanks for joining us on Friends Plaza for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and enjoying this lovely fall day with me are two of my faves. I'll have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about where you can find them in the garden. It's okay, we'll start with you.
Okay, well, you can always find me anywhere in the garden. I live outside of Monticello. We got a couple of acres, and I grow a lot of herbs and flowers and vegetables.
And heirloom tomatoes.
Yes, heirloom tomatoes. Although this year they were kind of sparse because
Yeah, this one was kind of tricky. Yeah. Okay. All right, Jen.
I am Jennifer Nelson. You can find me also in Monticello, out in my garden of all sorts of different things. And you can also find me on campus. I teach in the Department of Crop Sciences. I teach vegetable gardening, and you can find my articles online at groundandgrowing.com.
Awesome. A couple generalists on the show today. Okay, so it is unseasoned. It's beautiful.
It's so gorgeous.
Absolutely beautiful. So we're sitting outside today. We're going to take some of your questions. We've got show and tells. So we've been talking about these purple tomatoes all season. So bring it full circle.
Bringing it full circle.
Bring it full circle.
Home. Last time I was on, I showed how we were saving seeds from the tomatoes, and the purple tomato is the first GMO being offered to home gardeners, and it's interesting. The company is actually promoting that people should save the seed to grow next year. It's kind of unusual for a GMO to be promoted that way, but I'm taking them up on their offer. And we showed how you let the tomatoes kind of ferment to remove that gel coating on the seed. So I did that, and I dried them out on a paper towel, and then I just saved a pill bottle, and I saved desiccant out of
I grabbed those too.
out of a bottle of vitamins. I just have a little stash of them. And look, I even labeled it, so I look very professional.
You're very organized.
And I'm not just being generic when I say purple tomato. That's the name of the cultivar, is the purple tomato. So, and I put the date, so I remember I collected these in 2024, and I was like thinking, oh, maybe I didn't collect enough, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is enough for the next 10 years or more.
Yes, that's an army of
So we're
seeds.
good. We'll have purple tomatoes everywhere next summer.
I posted a video on, I think, it was the Mid-American Gardener social of the bubbly,
Nastiness,
moldy, yucky. They look great now. I laid them out just like you did, dried them.
And they're weirdly kind of fuzzy. Did yours stick kind of clump?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They did. I thought you put some vermiculite in there with it, but
they're just kind of clumping up.
So I'm hopeful that they'll turn out well and produce just as good as they did this year, because I had a bang up year with those tomatoes.
Those were really fun, and
they were.
I've so many aspects. The color, the flavor.
Oh my gosh! Did you make pasta sauce?
I did not make pasta sauce.
Did.
I made caprese salad with purple tomato, a red tomato, and sun sugar, which is kind of yellow orange.
Gotcha.
Beautiful.
I kept calling it my unicorn pasta because it was kind of shimmery, when it cooked down. So definitely looking forward to that. And spring Jennifer will be so proud of fall Jennifer.
That's right.
For being organized.
Future me is going to be thrilled.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. All right, Kay, what did you bring from your garden?
Well, I brought a stem from my lion's mane or lion's tail plant.
Lion's tail plant. I want to write that down.
Yeah, it's an African plant, just not real hardy here.
Do you grow these from seed, or do you buy starts?
And I had a seed, and now the plant is about 8 feet tall.
Oh my gosh.
And it has all these stems that go up, and you can see it's a member of the mint family, and you can see because it's got this square.
Oh, gotcha. Is it hollow? Did they do? No? Okay.
No.
Can you save seed from it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the one I grew came from seed that I had saved, I don't know when.
Wow.
And,
so will this just keep going up and creating spikes?
It will. And eventually, the seeds, there's kind of little thorns on this. And the seeds come in the pod, or where the petals are. So the petals come off, and then the seeds develop.
Now you said it's pretty tender. Will it reseed itself if you?
I don't know. I've never tried.
I'm always trying to get the most bang for my buck.
Same, less work, right?
I would doubt that they reseed because they stay in these holes in the
Oh,
ball.
gotcha.
So they
Okay, so
don't
it secures
drop
the
out.
seed. Okay, I
They
see.
don't spit them out of it.
I bet that's really pretty. And does it go out? Is it
Yes,
bushy?
it branches.
Branches, yeah.
I got several. This was one of them I brought because it was a little easier than the rest of them.
But 8 feet tall, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
they
impressive.
get huge, and there's medicinal purposes,
Oh,
sedatives, and
Mhm.
several other things that
very
they use.
cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to Google that because I don't think I've seen it. And now to know that it gets 8 feet tall and then just sporadically has those blooms all the way up. That's really cool. Lion's tail plant. I will be looking that up.
Call it lion's tail or lion's mane.
Got it. And does it come in any other colors? Do you know?
No,
Just the orange?
No, it's
That's
just
still
the
gorgeous.
orange.
That's lovely.
It's
That's
really
lovely.
a unique plant.
Very, very. All right, we've got some questions that have come in. I'm probably gonna have leaves in my hair by the time we're over with. We'll start with this pin oak question from Marilyn. It says, I have a big pin oak in my front yard, which provides a lot of shade. I have some hosta under that tree, and they don't seem to grow at all and thrive. Are the pin oaks inhospitable to planting underneath them? Would native plants thrive better? So we've talked about, what was it, walnut?
Yeah,
Is
walnut.
it allelopathic? Is that what it's called?
Allelopathic.
Allelopathic. I'm learning.
That's not happening with pin oak,
No?
but there's not a lot of, how do I say this without making people upset? We're really not supposed to be planting stuff under trees. That's really not like
Oh.
recommended. That's not to say people don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if hostas aren't working, you could try something else. But remember, you're competing with the tree's roots, and
Yes.
that's something that you have to keep in mind. In my mind, I would much rather have the healthy tree and have like some nice mulch or something if it's too shady for grass, because people get all fanatical about trying to grow grass
Yes.
under trees and
Yes.
stuff. And so you might be able to start some sort of ground cover, but you're not going to be doing some intensive like digging sort of
Gotcha.
situation of you're going to have this whole hosta bed or whatever. Hopefully that's makes sense.
It does. It does make sense. So if you are planting under a tree, if you're trying to create sort of that design, how far out would you suggest? And I know you're not an arborist, but
Not-
you know, is there a good safe distance to not have to deal with that competition?
Not under the tree.
Not under it? Yeah, not directly under it?
Yeah, I mean, I have stuff under trees at home, and I would say I'm at least a good 3 feet away from the trunk, maybe more, like 5-6 feet.
Okay.
But I'm not planting anything like super thick. Like I have a couple of things, and if they grow, great, and if they establish, great. But I'm not
But not like a
I'm
huge
not like a
clump of-
huge. I'm not trying to like plant a huge clump. If
Yes.
I put a small thing in there, and if it takes off and kind of makes its own little area, I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've seen stuff over the years of people doing things like building raised beds with a tree in the middle, like building up the soil around the tree. That's horrible.
The volcano.
Horrible. That is such a stress on a tree, and the tree starts making these extra adventitious roots because it's like, what's going on?
Can't breathe.
I can't breathe. So yeah, just go easy on it. Maybe there are some native ground covers that you'd be able to kind of piece in there and see if they take.
see how they
but
do.
don't go to any big excavation project, landscaping project under any tree,
Gotcha.
not just pin oak.
Because you will be competing.
Right.
Either way you slice it. Gotcha. Okay. All right, Kay, let's go back to you. We were talking about herb gardens. Now that we're in fall, as the leaf, just the timing was impeccable on that one. Do you close your herb gardens, your herb beds? Do you just sort of naturally let them go? How do you do it?
Well, I harvest a lot and dry it, and then I just let it go.
Just let it go?
And then if it's an annual, I'll replant the following year. And if it's a perennial, it's going to be fine. So,
But if you've got mint or something like that, do you cut it back? I know a lot of people, especially when they plant mint,
Mine's in a pot.
yeah.
smart woman.
Yeah.
Smart woman.
If you cut it back, it's just going to grow more. It's going to spread out.
Gotcha.
So, I would just let it be, and then in the spring, cut back anything that's dead.
Okay. Do you throw any compost or mulch or anything on it to sort of give it just a layer of protection, or does it need that?
Well, it depends on what it is. I have a garlic bed because I love garlic, and I use a thick layer of straw for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that does really well.
Okay.
I got huge garlic.
That's a good tip. So garlic, mulching or maybe straw on the garlic.
And you could do the same thing, maybe not as heavy, maybe grass clippings of layer or
Okay.
the straw. The straw works really well.
Gotcha. All right, Jen, what about you? Any closing of the beds, any ceremonial compost, or are you just like me and ripping stuff out?
I was just ripping stuff out. I mean, it's been so dry at my house,
Yes.
and
So
It's hard to
I
work.
think I told you in a text I'm just ready to burn it all down. No, I last year we were both talking about having petunias blooming in December. That is not the case this year because it's just been so dry,
Yes.
and I just got tired of watering. So my pots are pretty well done. We've dumped a lot of stuff out and just kind of getting ready for next year. I've got to do something different in my raised bed, so I'm kind of making the list already for spring 2025.
Yes.
Like things I want to do different. It's a good time of year to take some pictures.
Oh,
if
that's a
stuff
good
is-
idea.
Before you tear stuff out, or if you're noticing that when this stuff is really grown in and up and going, it looks terrible by this time, or document it so you can kind of think about what you
Yeah.
want to do.
Get the old plant journal back out.
Yeah.
I
get
do
it out.
that.
I
have
do
a
too.
journal,
What
and
worked, what
Yeah.
didn't work,
Well,
And
and
you can do it on your phone anymore.
That's
you
true.
can take. You've got all those different notes apps and
that's
stuff.
true. That's true. Like for next year, the impatiens will not be behind the zinnias because
Oh, yeah.
that was crazy.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, stuff
Lesson
like that.
learned.
I was just asking Kay about a plant I've got to move. I've got an herb that I have to make a note to move it in the really early spring because I know it's got a big tap root, so that's a difficult to
Oh, yes.
transplant. So,
Yes.
and it's
those are hard to
Yeah,
do because you got to dig so deep.
It's lovage, or
Lovage.
lavage. I don't know how you say it, but
Ooh.
it's very tall. It has a great big flower head on it. It tastes like celery,
Oh.
so you really can't grow celery around here very well. But you can use this herb for flavor. It's great in soup and
Gotcha,
stuff.
gotcha.
I like it for just how tall it gets.
Yeah.
But ever since we did an addition on our house and I had to reconfigure stuff. Like it's kind of settling in where it's at, and it's not liking it. So I've got to move
Oh.
it.
That's part of the game, though.
Yeah, right.
You
You're
realize
never done
where-
gardening.
No, you realize like, oh, this might need to move 4 feet over to the left next year to get more sun.
That's
or-
exactly what I
better
need to do. I need to
drainage.
move it about 3 feet, and it'll be happy.
Yes, yes. Okay. And we're talking about things that you can do right now, and tulip planting is one of those things that you can do in the fall. Let's see. Karen sent a picture in, and she says, do you prefer to plant tulip bulbs using an auger or doing it by hand? Both of you said when we were talking about this, depends on how many you got.
Yeah.
Because it's going to make a big difference. So I think I planted 20 tulips last week. Easy, done by
Easy
hand.
peasy.
Yeah, no big deal. Just turn the soil over. But I think here she was talking about doing 100 plus.
Yeah.
So-
Your hands are going to
You
get
need an
tired.
auger.
You need an auger,
Yeah.
yeah. And an assistant, I would say.
Yes.
One does the auger and the other drops
Yeah.
the bulb in.
It also depends how your soil is too. If your soil's easy to dig and you don't mind it's not a big effort,
Yeah.
then go do it by hand. But that auger will just power
Yes.
through
Yes.
and then you can go so fast with it.
Yes. Just the few that I dug in, that shovel did not want to go.
Well, you know tulips you're usually trying to plant about 6 inches deep,
Yes.
and like your measurement of 6 inches gets smaller. It seems like as
does.
I go, I'm like, oh, that'll be good enough.
Especially
Just
this
pat it
year,
in
it's
a little
been
bit.
so
It's so
dry. and,
dry.
you know, the soil's like concrete.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I,
So if you're digging 100 of them or planting 100 of them,
Yeah.
you'll definitely want that auger. Is there anything when we're putting those in the ground, do we want to water? I mean, I know we want to water them when we plant them, but let's say from now until, a big freeze or a big snow, are we taking care of those tulip bulbs that we just put in the ground, or we just
I'm just saying,
Set it and
Godspeed,
forget it.
like,
see in the spring?
I gotta trust that Mother Nature is gonna take care of them. I've never actually watered them beyond
Just that initial.
Just that initial, and maybe throw some bone meal or something in the hole with
Okay.
them.
That's good advice. That's good advice. I didn't know if you would have to baby them a little bit just to kind of get them going, but that's good to know. Good to know. All right.
I'm sure you could, but
Let's see. DR Esri wants to know about their crocus. They say, I have a fall blooming crocus, but they are planted in a bed for several years. I think they need to be divided and replanted. Is it best to separate and replant them in the fall or wait till the spring? Now, crocuses, do you pull those up?
no.
You don't? Okay.
And fall
Let's talk about those.
crocuses are different. I actually had a minute to
Oh.
look that one up. So the recommendation is to divide them in the summer, because after their leaves die back, because they have like the leaves come up and die back, and then the flower comes up.
Uh-huh.
Is what I was reading.
Mhm.
So it's kind of not on any schedule similar to anything
Interesting.
else.
Interesting.
And one of the fall blooming crocus is the saffron crocus. So we're kind of in the middle of where they sometimes will survive or not. So if you wanted to grow your own saffron, one of the most expensive
Yes.
spices,
I think John Bodensteiner.
I'm sure he was.
Yes,
if
he
anyone's
has.
going
Yes,
to.
yes, he has. So
If
he has,
anyone's going
so.
to have it, John.
It would definitely be
Yeah.
John. Definitely be John. Okay. Any other tips there on the crocus and just how to care for them, plant them, get them prepared for next year?
I think that's another set it and forget it, don't you think?
Yeah.
is,
We
it
love
is.
low maintenance. We
All
love low
about it.
maintenance. Excellent. Okay. What else? So we talk about in the fall every year. We talk about the leaves. Do you guys do anything with your leaves? Do you mulch them? Do you use them in your garden in any way?
I don't have enough leaves.
You don't have enough leaves. I can give you
I'll
some
send
of mine.
some.
You can have as many as you'd
The
like.
few leaves
bags
the
and
few
bags.
leaves that I have are causing a problem. I've got them in one gutter on my house.
Yes.
That's an achievement, though. That means my tree has gotten big enough to
Yeah.
cause a problem. But I do for the most part leave leaves where they fall in terms of on the garden beds.
Unless it's a real thick spot.
Right.
But we don't rake leaves.
No, we mow them up.
That's my
Yeah.
husband does.
I left them all this year. So this spring, they had all kind of packed in around the hosta. And usually you want to get out there as soon as it gets nice out and start. But I left them, and I intentionally left them, and I didn't have any trouble with slugs. I didn't have any trouble with how the under part of the hosta start to get just tired.
Yeah.
I saw a lot less of that.
Huh.
So I think I'm going to be a leaf
right.
girl, a
No,
leaf
that's
gal.
good.
Yeah,
That's
I think I'll be a
good.
leaf gal.
That's good.
Let's see, what else? We've got digging bulbs. Margie Brewer says, I just dug out my glads for the winter. Can I wrap them in paper and place them in a bag or put them in the basement? So basically, where should she put them, or what can be done with them? And then with the little bulblets that form, what do you do with those? Do you pop them off? Do you leave them on? So let's back all the way up. So she dug out the glads. How do you store glads for winter?
I don't. I leave them in the ground.
You do.
I do.
This is the
I cut
low
'em
maintenance
back.
crew.
I cut them back and leave them, and then they're
You do
they're
too?
always
I
there the
do
next
too,
year.
and I've dug
Okay.
them a couple of times, but some of them, if they're up close to the house, they've survived. So I've kind of done kind of a hodgepodge of I'll dig a few. I've done a couple different things with overwintering. I've just put them in a tote in the crawl space where it's cold but not freezing. I put them in the crisper drawer one year, and
really
that
nice.
worked.
Yeah.
And nobody cared. Nobody was like, it was out in the garage. Nobody
Tried
was
to eat
hurt.
them or
Nobody
anything?
tried to eat them. Nobody was like poisoned or anything by any dirt getting on anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, just keeping them cool and dry. And the bulblets, they would technically eventually get big enough, but I don't know how many years that would take. You'd have to be really meticulous with it.
Yeah, I had some tiny little ones on my colocasia. I just left them because they were so small. I
Right.
thought you
Yeah.
probably need a little bit more. That was
Right.
just an assumption
Well,
on my part.
And I get to the point with how many things to bring in. I'm like, how much will it cost to replace these with nice
True.
big fat bulbs that have been grown in awesome
true.
conditions?
That's true.
And so kind of weighing your options that way. and that is totally low maintenance, lazy
Yes.
gardening. But
It's the squirrel in me, though.
yeah, no, it's like, but it's not dead yet. I can save
I can save it.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I am the person that is always trying to save everything.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
But at some point,
You
gotta-
can't. You
gotta
can't
have
save
a
'em all.
boundary.
She mentioned wrapping them in newspaper. Do you think that is a good medium? I know we talk about perlite, vermiculite, newspaper. Any best practices there?
I mean, that's good in the case of if one starts to rot, it's less likely to kind of spread. You want to keep them from touching. I don't always put anything on mine, so don't look to me as the expert.
And I don't even bring mine in.
Yeah,
so-
it's like I'm kind of like the so-called expert that just tries to push the envelope of
Just to
what can
see.
I avoid
Just
doing?
to see.
What can I avoid
Yes,
doing?
yes.
At least I dug them.
Yes. Well, you know what? I like that though, because we have a very mixed group where some are very, very particular and very persnickety about timing on digging things and checking them midwinter to make sure that everything's okay. And then there are some of us who are just like,
Seriously,
That's
yeah.
live or
what I
don't.
do.
Yeah, and you know, I have some stuff that I don't dig at all, but I put it in pots. I have dahlias in a pot, and I
Not
just
bad.
I just
I-
drag the pot in the garage, and it will be fine. I have a tuberous begonia that survived by accident. Like I never even last summer, I never even got around to putting it in its own pot. It was in like the plastic nursery
oh
pot.
wow.
And it was still sitting outside in my to be planted, and it was the fall. I'm like, oh man.
Come on back
Going
inside.
back, I'm like, well, I threw it in the garage not thinking anything of it. Like, oh, it'll probably die. And it was sprouting in the spring. Like, you have proved to me
Wow.
that you
See?
are worthy.
You just
So
have
it got
to
its own
push the
pot.
envelope.
Yeah,
You got to push the envelope.
So it worked.
Awesome. Okay, we've got about 3 minutes left, and last thing I wanted to ask is, a lot of us have already brought in our houseplants that were on the porch, but if there are any stragglers that are still alive, I have one ZZ plant on the porch. What do you recommend for insects? Do you just look them over? Do you spray it down? Do you just turn the hose on? What do you do for spiders and insects and all that good stuff?
I look them over, and I give them kind of a bath in the sink, kind of flush the pot in case there's any stragglers inside the pot. Sometimes you can have like a lot of roly-polies and stuff like
Yes,
that, and that
yes.
can sometimes help flush them out.
Okay.
Bonide is the company, makes a systemic granule that is good for all sorts of
stuff.
critters. Not necessarily, it would be things like scale and mealy bugs and the stuff you really don't want on your houseplants.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, other than that, and sometimes I stage stuff by putting it in the garage for a few days, so anything can kind of disperse.
Yes.
One year I brought in a giant praying mantis, and,
lovely.
and the cat just went berserko. Like as entertaining as it was for the cat, it was kind of not what I was aiming for.
Oh yeah. I think, well, one year, speaking of the staging, I think I brought in a mouse, but it was in the garage.
Thank
Because there was a
God.
little hole, and I think he exited
Yeah,
before.
I've heard
so.
stories of that, especially like those great big pots that
Yes.
you may have. Like
Oh,
I have
yeah.
a monstera that I can hardly get in and out by myself anymore.
Uh-huh.
I'm always worried about that one.
Yes, yes. What about you, Kay? Anything special that you do before you bring your houseplants back inside?
No, just kind of clean them up a little
Clean them
bit.
up and give them a little rinse off,
Yeah.
and okay,
Find a good spot for them somewhere.
yeah, somewhere.
Yeah. Another thing, if you're worried about stuff coming out later, the yellow cards that are
Yes,
sticky, you can
yes.
put those out.
I really do like those. And you know, even if you don't think you have those little gnats or those little fruit flies,
Yeah.
when you go look at those in like January, February, there's a couple little guys on
Yeah.
there that were, that came in with you. So, well, anyway, ladies, we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Always appreciate your time and talents. And thank you so much for watching. If you've got questions for our panelists, you can send them in to us at yourgarden@gmail.com, or you can find us on socials. Just look for Mid-American Gardener, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.